The last couple of lessons have spoken about brainstorming and coming up with ideas and creative solutions, but they don't really go very much into the process by which you do this brainstorming or generate these ideas. So I thought I'd do a kind of quick and dirty description of things that people who study human creativity say will jumpstart the creative process. So the first of these is to recognize yourself as a creative genius. What this really means is just recognizing that it is not really difficult to be creative. Most creativity is not someone coming up with an entirely new idea out of thin air. It consists of combining two or more ideas from some other source, adding on to an earlier idea, twisting another idea, turning it on its head. Almost all new ideas depend on ideas from the past. Number two, listen to your subconscious mind. I'm not sure I actually buy this firm distinction between a conscious and an unconscious, but there's definitely a part of your mind that's in the forefront, that's your logical mind, and you are evolved to look for patterns with that part of your mind. This is the part of your brain that looks for patterns and makes the world predictable so that you know how to act in it and how to relate to other people. At the same time, there is another part of your mind that is always breaking down the world's patterns and playing with the pieces. And that mind, which we can call the subconscious for lack of a better word, is always producing these little ideas, little spurts of ideas. And we normally just suppress them or ignore them. Some particularly creative people don't. Some people actually keep journals to jot down every little crazy idea they have. But those ideas are popping out all the time. And if you learn to pay attention to them, then you will have you'll be able to grab onto those little ideas and then pull them out for your conscious, pattern-seeking mind to look at and play with. Okay, so if patterns are part of what prevent you're always spending your time in the same general cultural patterns is what inhibits creativity, then things that break those patterns are going to open you up to be more creative. Humans love repetition, but you can, get out of your patterns by, switching to other modes of experiencing the world. So, one of the classic things that people who study creativity tell you to do is to switch from writing to drawing, or to change positions, change how you go about tackling the problem, tackle it from the back to the front. Do something different in order to break down the same old patterns. Number four, change your scene. Sometimes what it takes to break a pattern is to get out of the normal places that you're used to working, get out of your comfort zone, that is, and go work somewhere else. Many projects are finished on the way to conferences, because sitting in an airplane surrounded by strangers is a nice break from the familiar desk at home. So I know that often I find when I drop my son off at his sports activities in Cincinnati, I'll go he's there for 3 hours, I'll go to a coffee shop. And just being in the coffee shop surrounded by strangers with nothing to do and my computer sitting in front of me, I can plow through work much faster than I can at my office, even though in my office I have all my files and everything there. And I think it's the change of scene that just helps me concentrate in very different ways. So one of my high school friends spent some time working in Los Angeles as a stand-up comic. And when he first started working as a stand-up comic, he told me that one of the first things that he learned when he went from being just, an amateur, the funniest guy in the room, to an actual paid comic, was to always look for the second joke. And what he meant by that was that the first joke is usually a little bit obvious. It's the easy grab. It's the easy joke. And he said, you're under so much pressure to perform, so if you go in and you say, oh gosh, this is in the news, I got to make a joke about it, and so when you come up with that first joke that pops into your head, you relax. You think, okay, good, I've got a joke about it, that's all I need. But if you spend some time playing around with the idea until you get to a second joke, the second joke is almost always fresher, funnier, less obvious, and less derivative. The same thing goes for the kinds of ideas you're trying to brainstorm in policy analysis or any other solution-finding process. Once you guys have an idea, instead of relaxing, you want to keep going. You want to keep playing with it and generating more ideas and more ideas. Number 6, learn to play the violin. You don't actually have to play the violin. What this refers to is finding some kind of an activity that takes you out of your comfort zone and puts you in a new context. So one of the things that some people will suggest for activities like this is to set up a time and work really hard for 50 minutes, setting a timer. And when the timer goes off, you stop, you get up, you go do something very different for 10 minutes. Make dinner, paint a picture, play a game, sing a song, but some kind of creative activity. It's not okay to turn on the TV or check your email. And then you go back to the process for another 50 minutes. And when that timer goes off, you stop and you go do something creative again. And this is supposed to really energize your mind. I have a very difficult time doing this. The discipline escapes me. But the few times that I have managed to pull it off, it's actually been really effective, and I've tended to have very good, very productive days. Number 7, argue the other side. Classic technique. Once you have worked something out from one point of view, go take another point of view and try and work it out from there. This is really useful in problem analysis when you're trying to think about how it looks to the other stakeholders. So once you've worked out what the best thing is for U.S. foreign policy, for example, then you need to go over and say, okay, well, how does this look from the viewpoint of one of the other stakeholders, say Iran? How would the Iranians actually see this? And then you turn around and you try to get yourself into the feet of another, into the shoes and mindset of another stakeholder, and say, well, how would they see this? And that kind of moving around from viewpoint to viewpoint is a real mind stretcher and helps you generate creative ideas. Of course, it's hard to be really creative when you are trying to be creative, and it's even harder when you are your own worst critic. So, number 8, give your inner critic the day off, is a reminder to yourself that when you're deliberately trying to brainstorm and come up with ideas, you don't want to let the critic truncate your ideas ahead of time. Just get them all down, generate as many ideas as you can. You can sit down and start sorting through them in terms of feasibility and costs and benefits and plausibility after you've generated the ideas. In a similar vein, formal brainstorming sessions work really well when everyone is shouting out ideas, writing things on a common whiteboard, and otherwise playing around together. People who are in the right mood tend to play off each other. One person's ideas generate other ideas. And if you get all these ideas down in a nice, open, creative atmosphere, you can have a later meeting that's more critical where you sit down and start assessing their feasibility. So for a formal brainstorming session, you have to turn off the tendency to criticize each other and to critique the ideas people are generating in the same way that when you're working alone, you have to turn off your own inner critic. Okay, and the last piece of advice that I culled from all of these experts on creativity that I looked through to do this is number 10, believe there is a solution. Often when we're faced with difficult problems, and when we're talking about the region of the world we're working in, when we're looking at the kinds of issues that people are dealing with, it's very easy to shut down and say, nobody's been able to solve this problem. I'm not going to be able to solve this problem. Maybe there is no adequate solution. Well, there is a problem, and something has to be done about it. And so one of the things that allows you to be creative is to really try to make yourself believe that there is a solution out there, and you may be the one to come up with it. So, you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe in your ideas, or at least you have to believe in the possibility of having good ideas. And that's really another way of turning off the kinds of critics that you've got talking to you in your head